Everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be making this sweet little card for you today, and I'm going to be using some really fun products from Honeybee, including the Cottage Countryside die set. This is just a really neat set that allows you to die cut out the little hillside and some coordinating clouds. And then this works beautifully with the Spring Cottage Village die set. I really love this die set so much. There's so many really intricate and cool details that you can add, including this really fun brick chimney. Look at all of these little trees and foliage. You can add all of these little details, the roofs and the windows and such, to your adorable little spring cottage village. I'm going to be doing some ink blending first on the hillside that I've die cut from that Cottage Countryside die set. I'm going to be using a few colors of green. I think I used crushed olive, peeled paint, and mowed lawn in the different green areas here. Now what I wanted to do was try to make the little road on the little hillside a different color from the hills and the grassy area. And actually some of this is going to get covered up on the card anyway, so it doesn't really show. But when I was first starting to do this, I wasn't really sure of the layout of the houses or the house, etc. on the card. So I was just working on creating some details and then going from there. So I'm going to just use my blending brush here, my larger brush, to do the larger area. And you can just see here what inks I'm using based on the lids. This is one of our Honeybee larger blending brushes here that I'm using to do the large area. And I'm just blending this on really loosely. I am going to go in with some details with a finer brush with my mowed lawn here in a minute once I get this all covered. So now I'm going to go in with just a really fine detail brush that kind of has like some little feathered bristles on it, which is really perfect for adding the little grass detail here with this mowed lawn. So I'm just loading up the brush with the ink and then going in and just kind of like tapping in a little bit of this brighter green where those little tufts of grass are. And the really great thing about that Cottage Countryside die is it doesn't just die cut, it also embosses the paper to add the pattern and detail of the hillside, which is really fun. And then you can go in with whatever color medium you're using and add some detail. So I really like that. You can see that I'm using a variety of pouncing motions on these little grassy tufts, as well as just a little bit of a back and forth sort of horizontal movement just to create that brighter area, to create that contrast on this really pretty little landscape hillside. So really love this die set that creates this beautiful detail for my little scene that I'm going to be creating here for my card. So now I'm going to take my landscape top folding A2 card base and I'm going to blend some tumbled glass oxide ink on here. Again, I'm using a Honeybee Stamps blending brush just to blend on a really nice blue area for the sky for my project. I love tumbled glass for sky. It's a really, really pretty soft blue. Definitely reminds me of what the summertime sky looks like here in where I'm from, here in Canada. And I just really love this color so much. So just working that onto the cardstock. I'm not really worried about it being a little bit blotchy because this is a summery sky that might have maybe some some wispy clouds kind of in the background. And so I wasn't necessarily really going for a super, super solid look here. So I'm going to just grab that landscape base and just put that on here just to see how that's looking as far as the opacity or the darkness of my ink. And I'm also going to just grab the little coordinating cloud there and see what I'm liking as far as the contrast of the white and the blue. And I decided that I definitely want to darken up the blue a little bit here just so that you can see the cloud on the skyline a little bit more, a little bit better. And now I'm ready to start to put some of these things together. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of liquid adhesive and add that to the back of this landscape piece here for the bottom portion and add that on. And just going to make sure that I get that on there nice and straight. I think I just stand the card up and let it just tap it down so that I can be sure that it is nice and straight with the bottom of that card base. And then I'll add in 2 of the clouds from the die cuts from that Cottage Countryside die set. And I love that this just fits in perfectly. It just nestles into that little hillside area. And the second cloud fits in on the other side perfectly as well. So really fun. And I just love how this really makes putting a scene together super, super easy for your project. There is a small little detached cloud that I'm going to be putting onto the project later when I have the sentiment stamped into that sky area. Now I have die cut out all of the different little dies for creating the rest of my little scene here. You can see that the house that I've die cut out here is from some navy cardstock, and I'm going to add some details in with craft cardstock. So the roof die cut piece is in craft, and now I'm going to add the little window panes to those two little windows up top there in white, just to add a little bit of contrast in that way. And what I did when I went to die cut all of these little pieces out is I just grabbed my scrap box that I have in my craft space. I've got a box from IKEA, a white plastic box that I keep near my desk. And if I've got any scraps of cardstock when I'm working on my different projects, they go into that box. Part of the box is just white cardstock and the other part is different colors. And I just rummage through there when I'm working on a project like this to use up those cardstock scraps. Die cutting these little bits from your scraps is a perfect way to use up some of those little bits and pieces of cardstock that you have in your space. Now these little rounded top windows are adorable, and I'm going to put those onto the three lower windows. I've die cut those from white as well. So you can imagine how you can coordinate this. I have themed this as a congratulations on your new home card, so that if you are giving this to a new homeowner, for example, you can customize your little house to actually look like the house of the recipient's home, and so on and so forth. So it's just a really fun set that you can do some really cool things with. Now there's a variety of different options for doors on the die set. So this is the door that I chose here for this little house, and I did die cut that from craft. The little shutters on these windows in the lower portion of the house are going to be from craft colored paper as well, so they coordinate with the roof. And these are super, super easy to add on. I don't know, I'm making it look more difficult than it actually is. It doesn't take long to adhere these little bits onto your project. Some of the little pieces are a little smaller than others, but I highly recommend having your detailed tweezers available so that you can hang on to some of these smaller pieces. Now there's some little window boxes with some little foliage that you can add onto your little bottoms of your windows as well for your houses. And so I've added a little bit of green foliage to one of the window boxes that I die cut from some brown cardstock, and I'm going to add those to the lower portion of each of those three windows. Now the large tree actually has a die for the base of the tree, which I cut in brown, and now I've cut the foliage part of the tree from green, and those pieces are adhered together. Now I'm just going to loosely cut a piece of blue cardstock just to add to the back of my house, and that's going to fill in the windows. And this is just to make it look like you're looking into the inside of the house. You could use pretty much any color of cardstock for this if you wanted. A different color, you could definitely use whatever color you would like, obviously. So you could use yellow if you wanted it to look like some little lights on inside there, whatever you would like. Now I am going to add a little bit of dimension to the different pieces when I put my little scene together. This little tree, I'm going to add a little bit of dimensional foam adhesive to the top portion just to make some of the little bits a little more dimensional on my project. You would not have to do that. You could add them on all flat. Now there is a die for a little picket fence, and there's some dies for these little stone wall features, which are really fun. There's a little stone archway, and anything that was die cut for these stone pieces I cut from a dark gray cardstock. And I'm going to add this brick wall and the little brick arch with some foam adhesive, and then I'm going to put the little foliage, this little shrub foliage piece on using some green cardstock, and I'll just get that in place. And then I did finish up the other side off camera. It's basically just more of the same, and I just had that sort of like bleeding off the right side of the card. This is a really great stamp set. This one's called No Place Like Home, and it coordinates beautifully with the die sets. I love this so much, and there's a variety of different sentiments there that you could choose from. I am going to stamp that onto the top left corner of my sky area there with some black crisp ink. And so I've just put my card into my MISTI. I've got the stamp positioned. I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that out with black ink. Now I'm going to get that last little cloud and add that in now that I've got my sentiment and everything else placed, and that's going to finish up my card. Friends, I linked up to all of the different products that I've used from the Honeybee shop in the description box below, so you can look in the Show More section below the video to find those links. Thank you so much, friends, for watching today. I'll see you soon. Have an amazing day. Take care. Stay well. Bye-bye.